Ready?
Need to turn that on. And I didn't turn the speaker on, but I do now. That public notice of the meeting, including the meeting agenda, has been posted the required length of time in the lobby of the county administration building and on the county website, and that the news media was notified of the meeting time and place. I'd like to welcome you to your county council meeting. I would ask that you take a moment to turn off or place on vibrate any cell phones or pagers. Thank you for not wearing any caps in the council chambers, and please be considerate of others in the room by refraining from conversations during the meeting. I ask that you please stand and join the council for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation given this evening by Council Member Larry Honeycutt. And Mr. Honeycutt, one of Mr. Honeycutt's daughters, is going to be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, Miss Sherry Brady.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we have the prayer tonight, I want to say something about my lovely wife. This is our 64th wedding anniversary today. And she spent last week in the Monroe Hospital fighting pneumonia, so we're just glad that you're here, darling, and we love you. Every one of us loves you. Now our prayer. As I leave county council, I have many people to thank for the past 16 years. You have blessed me with a loving, caring, supportive family, and I am very, very grateful. You have blessed me with good health over the years, and I thank you for that, Lord. I have served with dedicated council members who were and are serving for the right reason, and that is to make Lancaster County a better place to live. I thank you for this friendship and service by all of us and for the people of Lancaster County. I've always believed that the greatest asset any company or county has is dedicated employees. You have blessed Lancaster County with wonderful employees who have helped and supported me for 16 years. My prayer is that I showed my love and admiration and support for them, and I will miss their handshakes, their hugs, and their beautiful smiles. For this, I am truly thankful. Trusting in you, God, and seeking your guidance has been a way of life for me, and in my retirement, that will continue. Gracious God, my prayer is you will continue to bless Lancaster County, our great state and a nation filled with constant turmoil. Bless our new leadership of our county as they continue to make Lancaster County a better place to live, work, and raise our families. We pray for the sick, our veterans, and those who cannot help themselves. Amen.
Amen. Wow, Larry.
Amen.
Good job, Larry.
Thank you, Mr. Honeycutt. That was a beautiful prayer. You have set the bar really high for us going forward here. Woo.
We're going to have you back doing the prayer every month.
Okay. Have a motion for approval of the agenda. Is there any changes or deletions to the agenda? If not, I'd like to have a motion. Motion by Ms. McGriff.
Second.
Second by Mr. Honeycutt. All those in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Chairman Harper is not able to be with us tonight. Hope he and his family are having a good time. We have some special presentations tonight. First one up is a recognition of retiring County Councilman Larry Honeycutt from District 4. Larry, if you could come down front. Charlene, if you could join us. Miss Honeycutt, could you come up as well? Mr. Honeycutt, it has been a pleasure to serve with you, and I know I speak for all the council, you're going to be sorely missed. You have found a special place in my heart, Ms. Honeycutt, and we are so thankful for the time that you served. And I'm going to take a little opportunity myself to present you with a little gift that I hope you will like.
Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. This is sort of a running thing between us. I would get hot dogs and Miss Honeycutt would get me cheese straws from Cracker Barrel. Charlene is here. She's going to read a proclamation. I think she is the longest-serving member after Larry. So the mantle has dropped on your shoulder now.
What a hard job. Before I read the proclamation, Larry is my partner. This heat is, I've been on council 13 years, he's been 16. As soon as I got him here, he put me under his wing, and we were like sisters and brothers. And I love him. His family adopted me as their sister. So I just don't know what I'm going to do without you, Larry. But I love you. I really, really do. So I'm going to try to get through this proclamation without crying. So and if I cry, I know you're going to cry with me. Lancaster County, South Carolina proclamation. Whereas Larry Honeycutt has served on Lancaster County Council for 16 years, and after serving 4 terms representing District 4, has decided to retire as of December 2022. And whereas Larry Honeycutt has served in various positions on County Council during his tenure as a council member, such as Vice Chair and Secretary, and as a committee chair for the Infrastructure and Regulation Committee. And whereas prior to his service on County Council, Larry Honeycutt served in the United States Navy from 1956 until 1960, and then had a successful management career with Georgia Pacific as a production superintendent until his retirement in 1996. And whereas Larry Honeycutt has been married to the love of his life, Jan Ramsey Honeycutt, for 64 years. Together they've raised 4 beloved daughters and have 11 grandchildren and 19 great-grandchildren. And now, therefore, Lancaster County Council expresses their heartfelt thanks and appreciation for the dedicated service of Larry Honeycutt to the citizens of Lancaster County, and proclaim December the 12th, 2022 as Larry Honeycutt Day.
Mr. Mosteller has a presentation he would like to make as well.
Larry, I want to tell you, it's been great serving with you. I've been here 6 years now. Like Charlene said, you've been a mentor to a lot of us and took us under your wing and showed us, had any questions about something, you was always there to answer. And I really appreciated that. It sort of helps a young, inexperienced councilman to have somebody they can call and help them along the way and understand some of this county government stuff. And I've learned a lot from you, and I really appreciate it. Jan, y'all's friendship just meant so much. I've got a proclamation here from the state. Now, this is pretty lengthy. I'm going to read it. I didn't bring any Snickers, so it might take a while. I'm gonna read it. This is introduced by Representatives Brandon Newton and Sandy McGarry. To recognize and congratulate the Honorable Larry F. Honeycutt at the completion of 16 years as a dedicated Lancaster County Councilman, to thank him for his distinguished service and to extend best wishes in all his future endeavors. Whereas for 16 years, Larry Honeycutt has enjoyed the benefit of the commitment, experience, and leadership of Larry F. Honeycutt, member of Lancaster County Council, who, having decided to retire, will step down from his duties as a councilman in December 22, and whereas this patriotic son of South Carolina, heading to the call of his country, served the United States Navy from 1956 to 1959, and whereas after more than 36 years of service, in 1996, Larry retired from Georgia Pacific as production superintendent. He truly loved his job, his company, and his employees. And whereas in 2006, Larry Honeycutt took up his duties as a Lancaster County Councilman and now served 4 terms representing District 4. During his tenure of Lancaster County Council, where he has served as both vice chair and secretary, he has championed many projects, ranging from new courthouse to the new animal shelter. He also led the charge to make Lancaster County the first totally smoke-free county in South Carolina. And whereas Lancaster County's Larry Honeycutt's self-professed greatest accomplishment was the successful wooing of his wife of 64 years, Jan Ramsey Honeycutt, a beautiful red-headed woman from South Dakota. Along with the love of his life, Larry delights in 4 beloved daughters, 11 charming grandchildren, and 19 delightful great-grandchildren. His family is made complete with his 3 son-in-laws and daughter-in-law. And whereas Larry has been devoted attending Reformation Lutheran Church for over 60 years, he faithfully raised his family in his church and has never missed an opportunity to serve in whatever capacity he was needed, including the church council. And whereas, as alumni of University of South Carolina, Larry attended Gamecock football games for many years. He was also a Brooklyn Dodgers fan until they moved to the West Coast, and his loyalty shifted to the New York Yankees. And he and one of his daughters attended many games together, even getting the opportunity to be in the stands for the World Series. Well, that's awesome. Whereas Larry is known for his integrity, honesty, and vision. He has never met a stranger and strives to help anyone in need. He is loved and respected by all who know him. And whereas appreciate of the legacy of consistent commitment and excellence Larry Honeycutt has bestowed on the citizens of this great state, particularly those of Lancaster County. The House of Representatives takes its great pleasure in wishing him well in his departure from the County Council. He carries with him the gratitude and good wishes of all his colleagues and constituents. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives that the members of South Carolina House of Representatives, by this resolution, recognize and congratulate the Honorable Larry F. Honeycutt at the completion of 16 years as a dedicated Lancaster County Councilman. Thank him for his distinguished service and extend best wishes in all future endeavors. But it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to the Honorable Larry F. Honeycutt. This is the state House of Representatives. It says, I hereby certify that the foregoing is a true and correct copy of a resolution passed in the House of Representatives. That's James Lucas, Speaker of the House.
Mac. Walk up there.
Give that to your daughter.
Anywhere you want to get.
Larry, on behalf of Lancaster County Council and the citizens of Lancaster County, I'd like to present this to you for your service and dedication to the county. I can't see anything more fitting to be giving you as a servant of Lancaster County as a piece of artwork that was created by one of our residents. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you very much.
Y'all back, hey, come back here. Is this good?
If I had known all this was going to happen tonight, I'd have retired earlier. But thank y'all very much.
Yeah, but- Okay, we have a special presentation by recognitions by the Keep Lancaster County Beautiful Committee. Miss Mandy Cato is director. Would you please come forward?
Thank y'all for having me. Yeah, we have a few people we'd like to recognize. Pull this down. Okay. It feels awkward looking at you guys, but yeah, we want to recognize two volunteers that have helped us throughout the year and have made a huge difference. So I'll just tell you a little bit about them as I call them up. The first one, I'd like Claire to come up here, and also Ann Ferguson. We're going to present one to our volunteer person of the year who has picked up so much garbage, but I'm going to let Claire talk about that. So Claire, if you want to come here to the mic.
As Vice President of the Keep Lancaster Beautiful Board, it's my privilege to present the first Frank Ferguson Senior Memorial Award for 2022 for individual excellence. Frank, who worked in Mr. Harper's district, was instrumental in getting KLCB going, but sadly passed away in March, and his family has stepped up to take his place. It is my honor to present the first Frank Ferguson Award for individual excellence to someone who does not know she is getting it. It is Joan Schumeyer, who has worked weekly, tirelessly to clean up Indian land by picking up over 400 bags of litter by herself. Today, she walked 14 miles and picked up 10 more bags. She works for Mr. Councilman Graham and Mr. Carnes districts. Joan, it's my privilege to give you this award. Mr. Honeycutt, I remember when you threw that trash over
I'm going to give them one.
the desk, the podium, the night to get this all started, so we will miss you.
I'll get you right. That's why you said I needed to be here. Yeah, we tricked her, so we appreciate that. And then the next is a group award that we would like to have Greg Gregory present to the Board of Disabilities, Chester Lancaster Board of Disabilities, who started, I did a presentation there this summer about recycling aluminum cans. They jumped right on board, and Greg will tell you a little bit about that. And come on up, Hope, if you will. Hope is a day program. Yes, and Karen. And Hope has supervised, and Karen is among the ones who've been rinsing those cans and bagging them up. And so, Greg, I'll let you share a little bit.
Thank you, Mandy. Great to be with y'all tonight. Just want to briefly start by saying that our organization certainly appreciates the support that we've received from the county, from the chairman and administrator, of course, Councilman Honeycutt and Councilman Mosteller and everybody else. We certainly appreciate those that have supported us and got us going. We've got a great organization. We've had 3 pickups this year, picked up over 1,000 bags of litter across the county, all 7 districts. And Mandy's done a great job shepherding us and providing supplies and coordinating pickups and so forth. I'm here tonight to present the Group Volunteer of the Year, which goes to the Chester Lancaster Disabilities and Special Needs Organization for their can recycling program. Mandy wrote a story about this, and included in that story was the fact that recycling 1 can will provide enough energy to power a television for 3 hours. So 1 can powers a television for 3 hours. And this organization has done a terrific job in recycling cans. I don't know how many hundreds of pounds they've recycled, but it's been a lot. So,
And if I could just interject
Sure.
here, tell them what the name of the award is. We wanted to honor somebody important.
right. It's, of course, the Larry Honeycutt Award.
All right.
And going forward, each year, we will have these same 2 awards to the group and to the volunteers. So we wanted to honor you, Mr. Honeycutt, for that. So, now.
Honeycutt's been an anti-litter zealot, like a number of people in our organization, and that's what it takes. So this time, it's my pleasure to present the Volunteer Group of the Year Award, the Larry Honeycutt Award, Above and Beyond, Keep Lancaster Beautiful, to the Chester Lancaster Disabilities and Special Needs Board.
We want him to last a long time. Safety vest. And keep those hands nice and in his little bag.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'll tell why this took place.
Go right ahead.
In our neighborhood, I live in Arrowwood, and we had these newspapers were thrown out on our streets, our ditches, our driveways, 2 or 3 times a week. And we tried every way we could to get that stopped. And they claimed that us wanting to stop it, the Charlotte News, Charlotte Observer, it was freedom of speech that they were backing themselves on. So one day for church on Sunday morning, I went to 2 streets in my neighborhood, picked up 48 of those papers, put them in a garbage bag, and brought them to the meeting on Monday night. And when we got on the subject of litter, I threw all those out in the floor here. I said, now that's what came on 2 streets in my neighborhood. Did you know it stopped the next week? We hadn't had them happen again. So it works. So ladies, try it. Charlie, you remember that.
Thank you very much. Okay, next is our audit presentation of the annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022 for Lancaster County, presented by Grant Davis, CPA, Director, Malden and Jenkins and Subsidiaries, LLC.
Well, good evening. I'll do my best to follow up all that. I don't think we'll have as many laughs or maybe not even as interesting of information, but I'll try my best. Just for the sake of visuals, I prepared a PowerPoint presentation. It's not very long, maybe 10 or 12 slides for you all to look over. But just to start out with, we've prepared essentially 2 documents associated with the audit this year. One is the annual comprehensive financial report, which is the big thick one. That includes our opinion on the financial statements themselves. The second is what we call our auditor's discussion and analysis document. The purpose of that is to provide communications that we're required to have with you all as the county council. So things like we're independent of the county, we didn't have any disagreements with management in conducting the audit, so forth and so on. Those are all, as required, memorialized in this auditor's discussion analysis document. But in addition, we have got some information about who we are as a firm, demographic information about the type of clients we serve generally, a look at some financial highlights for the county in very kind of short, brief overview form, and then a look at some accounting standards that are going to come up in the next few years. And things are not getting less complex in the governmental accounting environment. But just following along here on the presentation again, just to tell you a little bit about who we are. My name's Grant Davis. I'm a partner with Malden Jenkins. I'm out of Columbia, South Carolina. We audit about 19 counties in South Carolina out of our office. And as we go through, you'll see some financial highlights, but I'm assuming you all have had the opportunity to look at the document, the annual comprehensive financial report. If you have questions about that, I'd be happy to try to answer them at any point or at the end. The first thing that you'll notice in the document itself, I think it's actually the first page number with an actual number and not a Roman numeral on it, is our opinion on the financial statements. It says in bold, independent auditor's report. First paragraph is our opinion, and it's unmodified. That's not glamorous language. You may have heard me say that when I've come before you all in the past, but it's really the only acceptable result in a financial statement audit. Again, that's an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion on the financial statements themselves. We conducted our audit in accordance with government auditing standards, which is a requirement. We've also issued a second opinion at the very back of the document. If you have to flip all the way to the back to find it, but it's on compliance with federal regulations associated with federal spending. This year, the county, as you can see there, kind of that last item, received about $6.3 million, expended about $6.3 million in federal awards from a variety of programs and sources. We audited about 50% of that total, which is the ARPA or ARP, however you want to think of it, the state and local fiscal recovery funds. Again, that about $3.7 million of that 6.3. The requirements for Lancaster County is that we audit 20% of federal spending. Again, we've audited about 50% of that. That report is a clean report as well. You'll see that as you read it. So an unmodified opinion on compliance associated with federal spending. I do want to highlight here that in this document you'll find the certificate of achievement for submitting the annual comprehensive financial report last year. That certificate is at the very beginning. Just recognizes the fact that Lancaster County goes above and beyond financial reporting. This is not required. The elements included in this document, certain portions of it, the statistical section, the introductory section, are not required by state law or anything like that. So Lancaster County has gone above and beyond, and they received an award for doing that. And that's included here in this document. Of course, this 22 report will be submitted to the Government Finance Officers Association, and it takes them 6 or 8 months to grade it. And there's no reason to anticipate not receiving the certificate again next year. But with that, just a few financial statement highlights. Again, I'm just going to be big picture, throwing out some numbers here, but the county reports about $308 million in total assets. About 140 of that is capital assets, so that's things like buildings, equipment, infrastructure, and that 140 is reported net of accumulated depreciation. And then about 140 million in total liabilities. That's not a typo, it just happened to lay out like that. That includes things like the pension liability, other post-employment benefits liability, bonds outstanding, things of that nature. That gives us about 168 million in equity, or what's called net position, at the end of 2022. Total revenues of the county about $120 million versus expenses of $87 million. So that gives you an increase in net position or equity of about $32 million from 21 to 22. The fund financial statements follow just after that, and the general fund's usually the one that folks are the most interested in, so just some quick flavor on that. The general fund has total assets of about $131 million versus liabilities of about $70 million. Those liabilities in the general fund are things like accounts payable to vendors, accrued salaries for employees, payments between funds, payables and receivables between funds. That gives us fund balance in the general fund of about $61.6 million. The largest portion of that 61, you'll see it's broken down in components in the statements themselves, is unassigned. Unassigned fund balance is about $48.5 million. So if you think about that in terms of spending, the county spends about $5.3 million a month. So if you think about that in terms of what your fund balance means, that you've got about 11.8 months, almost 12 months, a year of fund balance at June 30, 2022. And if you break that down a little bit further and look at unassigned fund balance, you've got about 9 months of fund balance. And what the reason that's important is if you think about your property tax calendar, and I'll show you a chart, I guess, right after here. The big red part of this chart is property taxes. So the overwhelming majority of the revenues the county takes in the general fund are property taxes. Those usually come in and starting in December, January, February for the most part. So to be at June and to have essentially the operating revenues, the set aside, the fund balance to continue to operate without taking another dollar is a very healthy place to be, is what really the flavor I'm trying to give you. June is a lean time in terms of your revenue cycle. So to be able to operate from June to December without taking in any money necessarily, of course we know you will, but in the event that you didn't, you would have the fund balance to carry you through to that time. So that's very positive. Just beyond that, you can see the breakdown of general fund expenditures. I won't read all of that to you. Generally, the larger buckets are public safety and general government. That's not atypical for county governments, and those are the red and yellow triangles there in the pie chart. This is just a look at fund balance over the last 5 years. So you can see 2018, the fund balance of the general fund was about $33 million, and that's risen to about 61.6 here in 2022. So other communications, I alluded to this at the beginning, but in our auditor's discussion analysis document, that's the one with state capital on the front here, we have included those communications that we have to have. Like, again, we're independent of the county. We didn't have any disagreements with management in conducting the audit. We didn't have any unadjusted audit differences or what we call past adjustments. Everything that we felt like needed to be adjusted was in fact adjusted in these financial statements for us to issue our opinion on them. And again, those are included in long form in that document. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of accounting standards coming up, some with more significant changes, some not as much. The county did implement a new accounting standard this year that's called GASB 87 that has to do with leases, require that we quantify assets and liabilities associated with certain transactions. It was really a cumbersome standard to implement, just to be honest. Veronica and her staff, I really think, should be commended to be here on December the 12th presenting this to you all early before the state deadline, having implemented that significant standard that required a lot of work, even required a new software package to account for. So again, I really want to congratulate her and her efforts in getting this done, not only on time, but a very positive report. I'll mention here, I don't think I have a slide for it, but we didn't have any findings in terms of internal control deficiencies or noncompliance with laws, regulations, and grant agreements, nothing like that. So overall, just a very positive report to give you all here today. With that, does anybody have any questions? I'll try to answer them if you do.
Are there any questions?
I got a comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Mosteller.
I would like to thank Veronica on the top-notch department that you run. This just happens year after year, and it's just great what you do, and we appreciate what you do for your employees. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, to accentuate that, I do want to highlight in the annual comprehensive finance report where we did highlight that the county, I think for 20 plus years now, has received the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. Clearly, thanks to Veronica Thompson and our entire finance team for that achievement. I also want to highlight, as Grant had said, thanks to Grant and his firm for working with us on this, that this is earlier than last year. And so given the audit work they did to make sure that we're addressing our federal requirements and stipulations was validated through their work this year. And also what he talked about the leases was a new program and process. And be able to do all that and have this done earlier, I think, is a testament to our finance staff and Veronica's leadership. And I want to highlight, he did spend some time talking about our fund balance which I personally have been very happy to see grow. We're almost to the 50 million mark, which is kind of a threshold for me by which I will feel good about our budget position and financial strength in the county when we get to that 50 million mark. And then I want to work with council as we go forward about how we maintain that level and then address any excess funds about that. And so I look forward to having that conversation with you during our budget retreats.
Any more comments? And we'd like to thank you, Mr. Davis, for your presentation and the work you've done for the county.
Thank you.
Okay, now we come to citizens' comments. Please bear in mind that this is not a period of dialogue with council or a question and answer period. This is your opportunity to address council with your concerns. I ask that you address your remarks to council as a body and not to any individual council member. Please speak into the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and you will have up to 3 minutes to address council. Your time will not start until you have provided your name and address. We have 4 individuals that would like to speak tonight. First up, Mr. Steve Willis.
Good evening, Steve Willis, 517 Rock Springs Road here in Lancaster. Mr. Vice Chair, members of council, tonight I'm asking for your indulgence in the rule that all comments should be addressed to council as a body, not individual council members. This evening, I want to say some nice things about my councilman, Larry Honeycutt. It's been a pleasure being a longtime resident of District 4 to vote for Larry for these past 16 years. I must tell you, it felt pretty strange not voting for him this past November. You all know that over my years on the boards of the South Carolina Association of Counties and the South Carolina City County Management Association, I often bragged about how our council functioned while listening to horror stories from other counties. No screaming, certainly no fisticuffs, just engaged, nonpartisan discussion on the merits of an issue. If there was a split among members, it was almost always an urban versus rural matter. In all cases, once the discussion was done and a vote was taken, council moved on, didn't look back. Councilman Honeycutt was a leader in this process. Councilman Honeycutt was the epitome of an involved council member. To my knowledge, he never looked at an issue from the lens of a political party or from his district. He looked at issues from the standpoint of it being beneficial to the county and all residents. That's how it should be, but sadly, that's not often the case around the state. I was always impressed by how Councilman Honeycutt was quick to reach out to any citizen that called for assistance. While he certainly didn't tolerate name-calling and angry missives, he was always ready to offer assistance where he could. I recall early on in my time with Lancaster County, his active involvement in the Indian Land cement plant issue, even though that wasn't his district. Going up to visit residents in the evening who couldn't even vote for him was just what he did. That was simply the first of many examples I witnessed over the years. The other thing I always appreciated about Councilman Honeycutt was his deep concern for our employees. He recognized that at the end of the day, council members and administrators don't really do anything to help citizens directly. Policy and guidance are important, but the boots on the ground work is done by the line employee, guided by their respective department head. Those are the real heroes that make Lancaster a great place to live, work, play, worship, and raise a family. And he never lost sight of that fact, doing whatever he could to provide for needed facilities and equipment in addition to adequately compensating these fantastic men and women was always job one for Councilman Honeycutt. My 3 minutes are ending, so I'd like to finish up with an observation. When Councilman Honeycutt and I first started way back in early 2007, our great friend and former council chair, Rudy Carter, told us at the end of the day, all any of us can do is look back and hope that we left Lancaster County a better place than we found it. To Councilman Larry Honeycutt, mission accomplished. Thank you, sir.
Well said, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Willis. Mr. Gordon Johnston.
Good evening, Gordon Johnston, 7401 Carmel Executive Park Drive, Charlotte 28210. Thank you again for your time this evening. Councilman Honeycutt, thank you for your service and congratulations. I'm here tonight on behalf of Century Communities, the applicant for item 8B on the agenda tonight, which is the Shiloh Woods community that I'm sure you know of that is on West Shiloh Unity Road. I know Rox will be up here later this evening, has more detailed project update for you, but wanted to at least provide a quick summary update. As you all know, the one outstanding item that was part of the Planning Commission's conditions for approval on the project, as well as planning staff's recommendation of approval, was the traffic improvement analysis. Happy to report that that is now completed. That report has been submitted and reviewed and approved. So all of the mitigation requirements that were part of that traffic study have been incorporated into the development agreement that's on the agenda tonight. So I'll be here later this evening, happy to come back up and answer any questions. Also here with me tonight are the civil engineer for the project with McAdams, as well as the traffic engineer with Ramey Kim. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnston. Mr. Kevin Garan.
Do y'all still have the clock, just to keep me honest here? Thanks. My name is Kevin Garon. I live at 10483 Stream Lane. Thank you for allowing me to speak here. I've been here a couple of times and spoken a few other times about smart growth in the county. Mr. Corns, thank you for your service in District 7. I know that's changing, I think, as of January. And when you look at the change, you see District 4, which I will be in now, the very northern part of the county. It's very small on a map, which tells me there's a lot of people there. And when you look at the growth in that area, it is really getting very difficult just to move around and live your life the way that the people of Lancaster County, there's a reason we live here. I grew up on a sugarcane farm in Louisiana. I wanted to be in the city, and many years ago I said I had enough of the city. I wanted to move back out in the country. I bought an old house that I'm still working on with a few acres of land, and everything around me is just exploding. I'm not against growth. I'm not against development, against developers, but there's got to be a plan of how we are going to grow in this county before we lose who we are in this county. Northern Lancaster County has become Charlotte. It really has. If you spend any time, I think when I was here a few months ago, I made a mistake and I said Lancaster and Barberville. I meant Harrisburg Road and Barberville. You cannot drive down from the beginning of Barberville to 160 without just tripping over developments. And Harrisburg Road's even worse, starting in Pineville and going all the way to 160. It's development upon development. There's construction gravel in the road. There's, poor engineer Scott Edgar has got to deal with stormwater issues out there. That monstrosity that's going up in the northern part of Harrisburg, right up near Pineville, I don't know what that is, but it looks like a crater. It looks like a meteor hit and destroyed that part of the county. They've just wiped out every tree, this clear growth strategy, and whenever it rains, the highway is flooded with sediment. There's something on Mr. Edgar's car that says if it's on the ground, it's in the water. That's what's happening. We're putting sediment into the creeks. We're filling up the creeks. They go to the river. We have to have smart growth in this county. I know I read the 2020 plan. I know that the county is working on the 2040 plan. I don't know if that passed, where that stands. There were a couple of public meetings. But I really would ask you all to really think about, especially those that are on the fringes in a rural area and watching this county grow, that there be some smart growth. Thank you for your time. And thank you, Mr. Honeycutt, for your service.
Thank you, Mr. Garone. Gwendolyn Brown.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gwendolyn Brown James, and the address is 3159 Pasture Lane in Lancaster, South Carolina. I'm here in reference to the property off of Wyatt Brown Road. I know most of you are very familiar with that because it's been coming up quite a bit lately. We have had a situation where we were trying to, I guess you would call it dividing or subdividing a piece of our land. We have over 200 acres of land that has been placed in our care by my grandfather. And it's now that my father and some of his siblings are passing away, we're trying to pass on that heritage to our children. And a lot of our family members have had some problems with that. I'm just trying to catch everybody up to speed. So, and we've had some problems with being able to subdivide our own land. We're talking about southern land out in the country in the rural area of Lancaster. And anyway, so they had this 20 lot rule that you couldn't put more than 20 lots out there. But then they counted all the houses that were off that road where we had given other people easements. So on our 200 acres of land, we could only put 20 houses. Now, we don't even have but 8. But the purpose, what we were having a problem with was getting the deeds passed on to our children, passing them on to the next generation. So we received some good news. I did receive some good news today that you guys are considering changing that and exempting that particular part of the ordinance. And I want to thank you guys for that. We really appreciate that, because when you live in the country, you love the country. You just want to be in the country. And we would also like for you guys to keep in mind that we are not a subdivision. We're not trying to build a subdivision. They said we're going to have to keep within the rules that are already set. But you guys somehow got all this rural country property registered in a way that we are looking like we're going to be a subdivision. We don't want to be a subdivision. We don't want sidewalks and having to put in the roads with all the lines and all of that stuff. We want our land to stay country land. And so we would really like for you to consider that whenever you're making your decisions for everything that you guys do. And we want to keep our roads, country dirt roads, you know. Our main road is paved now, thanks to the county people. So thank you guys for that. But at the same time, we have a lot of roads that cut off back there that are just country roads that's leading to someone's house. And we'd like to keep it that way. So please, when you're making your decisions and you're looking at this particular problem with the 20-lot rule, please consider the fact that we want it to stay country. We don't want to be a subdivision. We don't want to be classified as a subdivision, okay? We want to just be rural country folks, okay? I think that's it. We want to pass on our wills. We want it to be where we can have our wills be able to be implemented. So the problem is we can't even implement our wills and pass them on to the next generation because of the situation with the limits that have been placed on the land. Okay? So that was it. Thank you guys so much for your time, and thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you, Ms. Johnston.
James?
Ms. James.
Who's talking to me? You are. Okay, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Okay, now it's time for approving the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Vice Chair, I move to approve consent agenda items 7A and 7B.
Okay, second by Ms. McGriff. All right, we have a motion by Mr. Mosteller, a second by Ms. McGriff. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please raise your hand. All those opposed, it's unanimous. Okay, now we move to the non-consent agenda. First item is consideration of resolution 1221-R2022 regarding assignment of the fee agreement and the special source revenue credit agreement by and among Lancaster County, K2 Lancaster LLC, and Cooley Incorporated to FIP Master Funding 8 LLC.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion by Mr.
Second.
Griff, a second by Mr. Graham. Have any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, we can have a legal counsel speak to this. It is a resolution related to a leaseback transaction that changed some ownership and some names and about how the FILO or the fee in lieu was assessed. And so if Mr. DeBose wants to speak to that to give you some more clarity about what's being asked of you tonight.
Correct. Yes, just very briefly, Cooley and K2 have a existing FILO SSRC. The structure of this is that the real property is being conveyed to this FIP master funding. There will be a leaseback transaction. No terms of the FILO or SSRC are changing really. It's just the party that will benefit from it. The obligations of the FILO remain the same to the obligated party, and the enacting ordinance and enacting documents for this allowed these assignments to be accomplished through resolution. That's why it's before y'all on a one reading matter. In contrast to the other matter before you today with the studio displays later on, that's an ordinance because entirely new party was being added to it, and it altered kind of the fundamental bedwork of it.
Thank you, Mr. DeBose. Is there anyone having questions, any comments?
Just a quick question, John. So the last thing you just talked about, but we are in essence adding someone onto this agreement, are we not?
You're essentially, yes, you are, but again, the governing documents provided that an assignment could be done by resolution. The other document where no one's assigning their rights or obligations, someone else is just joining it. And again, the underlying documents of that, I believe, required an ordinance. In that instance, I will note too, and I meant to affirmatively call this out to you, there is a blank in the document at paragraph 8, G, that's 244 in y'all's agenda package. In case anyone had any questions about that, those are representations from the assignor to the assignee about the amount of investments that have been made. That information was not in the agenda packet. And again, it's the representation not involving the county, but for transparency and so you'll have all the information, this required a $2.5 million investment, and $2,671,000 of that investment have been met to date. And again, that's a representation between the assigning entities. But just wanted to make clear why those blanks were in the document and what they would be populated with.
Those blanks are going to stay blank? Is that what you're saying?
So again, that's a representation between the assignor and the assignee in the actual document that they will execute among each other. If you wanted to, y'all could make a motion to amend, but again, it's not a document that the county's executing. So I guess my point is that it didn't matter if we had that information tonight, in as much as it doesn't affect the county's decision directly. I just wanted to make it clear that what that amount referenced and what those amounts were.
Have any other questions? Okay, we have a motion by Councilwoman McGriff and a second by Councilman Graham. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, it's unanimous. Okay, next up is item 8B, application by Century Communities for a development agreement that includes 4 parcels totaling approximately 169.86 acres located at Williamson Farm Road and at 500 and 516 West Shiloh Unity Road, and to allow development of a 398 lot cluster subdivision.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, members of council. As was referenced earlier, this proposed development agreement is up for consideration of third ordinance reading. As you know, we have been, as a council and at staff's recommendation, have been conditionally approving this development agreement to resolving some outstanding items with the traffic impact analysis. Those outstanding items have included just some technical mechanics in preparing the document, making sure it meets the industry standards. There was also the need to examine an intersection of University Drive and US 521 for potential financial contribution towards impacts at that intersection. And I'm pleased to report that we have reconciled all of these outstanding items. The biggest one being that the University Drive intersection has resulted in the developer contributing approximately $65,445 towards improvement towards a partnership project, potentially at that intersection or a nearby intersection to help provide traffic congestion relief. And we're just pleased to have this completed, but I'll certainly make myself available for any questions that you have.
When you say a partnership with who?
Well, it would be potentially with SCDOT. It could be with potentially the city of Lancaster. The project, the rationale for seeking out mitigation funding was that there is a need at that intersection for a reconfiguration at that intersection. It's got an awkward intersecting angle. You're also going to have more cars and vehicles using that intersection as Shiloh Unity West gets developed. The solution to fix that intersection is beyond the scope or reasonableness to ask one project developer to resolve. So what we decided to do was go through an exercise of having them calculate their percentage of that project cost. And so we scoped out the full project cost, had our consulting traffic engineer work with their traffic engineer to come up with what's their percentage of impact at that intersection and monetize that. And so we would use that money either as a partnership with SCDOT, potentially the city, because again, they're doing projects in that same vicinity, or there have been instances where if that isn't deemed feasible, you could do something nearby that would provide some traffic relief. So that's the purpose and intent of that.
Well, I think anybody that goes through that intersection knows it needs work, especially if there's going to be more development. What was the percentage?
Oh, gosh, 22%, somewhere thereabouts.
So the whole thing's going to be like 300,000 or something?
Actually, yeah, really close to 300,000.
Rox, is this the intersection at the Chevrolet dealership, or is this the one south of it?
No,
Racetrack.
yeah, closer towards the racetrack. This is it's got a skew. It's an intersection that's kind of skewed. You don't intersect it at a clean 90 degrees. It's offset, and just as an awkward crossing.
That's on down.
Yes, that would be at the
University Drive's right there at Twin Pines.
yeah, with the Mexican restaurant there.
It is yes, it is very close to Adela's.
Yeah, that's Twin Pines.
I was thinking it was a different one.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we knew which one we're talking about. I would like to see that intersection improved.
But I don't think it's the one at Adela's.
Yeah. University Drive, yes.
It's not going to make it.
See what comes out. Them stores.
That explains why the city would be involved in it then. That's right, I got the wrong intersection. The other one needs work too.
Well, hey, I got my pen. You just let me know which ones. Yeah.
Has the city been consulted on this, Rox?
No, they have not. I think they, I have to believe, are aware of the issues at that intersection. But in terms of this specific exercise that we just went through, no, we did not contact the city.
So now, specifically, which intersection are we talking about?
Intersection of University Drive and US 521.
Okay, right there at Adela's.
Yeah.
And yeah, we need help there, a lot of help.
All right, we got the cart before the horse a little bit, so we need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Honeycutt and a second by Mr. Blackman. Is there any other questions?
Well, I only got a comment. I don't have any more questions. Want me to make my comment?
Yes, sir.
My comments are always to do with the development agreements, especially in development agreements that are not in the impact fee area and the lack of any fees for the fire service. And I also think the $500 for the schools is too low.
We have any other comments? Okay, we have a motion by Larry Honeycutt and a second by Alan Blackman. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes 5-4, 1 against. Okay, our next item before the council is consideration for Studio Displays Incorporated. Studio Displays has a standalone SSRC agreement with Lancaster County covering real and personal property at their project site located at 9081 Northfield Drive, Indianland, South Carolina. The SSRC was approved by Lancaster County Ordinance Number 2021-1713. An affiliate of Studio Displays, T&T Capital LLC, made a significant investment at the project site when T&T Capital purchased the real property and placed it into service in March of 2021, approximately $5.6 million in investment. This $5.6 million constitutes a large portion of the overall investment to be made at this project and is the same amount as the overall investment commitment under the SSRC agreement. Mr. DeVos.
Vice Chair Carnes, members of council, no changes from second reading on this. It's remained on y'all's agenda as non-consent due to the need to have a public hearing tonight at third reading. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Are there any questions for Mr. DeVos? Okay, we did not have anyone sign up for the public agreement, public. So I will declare the session closed. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Graham.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Charlene McGriff. We have any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, we move to item 9A, approval of appointment to the Health and Wellness Commission. We have a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Larry Honeycutt and a second by Charlene McGriff. Do we have any?
Mr. Vice Chair, I got a question, and I don't know whether it's to do with this, but I guess it's to Sherry. When we redrew the lines, now how are we to make sure that we're staying within our designated area? Will this come up in the new year or what?
The redistricting for committee members.
Okay, somebody asked me, and I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? We have a motion by Mr. Honeycutt, and we have a second by Ms. McGriff. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 6 to 1.
Mr. Chairman, I would encourage anybody to go down and sit in on this Health and Wellness Commission meetings. It's very, very good meetings. It's all beneficial for Lancaster County. So I'd encourage you to go and sit in just one meeting and know what to do in there.
Thank you, Mr. Honeycutt. We have one item that has been tabled and deferred till the first meeting in 2023. I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight. As we end 2022, I think it's been a great year, and we look forward going into 2023. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Okay. Motion from Mr. Blackman, a second from Mr. Mosteller. All those in favor? We are now in executive session. All right. I'll get it. Okay, do I have a motion come out of executive session?
So moved.
Have a motion from Ms. McGriff,
Second.
second from Mr. Honeycutt. All those in favor? Unanimous, we're out of executive session.
For the record, in executive session, 3 legal briefings were received concerning contractual matters, and 1 economic development matter was discussed, project raising. No votes were taken, no decisions were made.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make that motion, but if I could, with your approval, make a comment.
You sure may.
I have enjoyed this evening tremendously. I appreciate it so very, very much. There's a gentleman sitting on that front row over there that when he became our county administrator, I knew nothing about government. This man taught me what he could, what I could grasp. And Steve, I appreciate it. I appreciate your friendship, your leadership, and all you've done for me during my time on this council. It's been a joy to work with a man that reads 5 newspapers every morning and then consumes all of it. So I can't hardly read the Herald and consume it. But thank you, Steve. I appreciate you so very, very much. We got a good administrator now, and Dennis, I appreciate your support of that airport, because no matter what Alan says, we need the airport. And having said all that, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn these proceedings. This will be my last time to ever say that.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Honeycutt to adjourn. Remember, this is his 64th wedding anniversary day, so he needs to get home to his wife. Do we have a second?
I'm his buddy. I'm gonna second.
We have a second from Mr. Mosteller. All those in favor? We stand adjourned.
Thank you. Dan's waiting on him.